The Empress's hand trembled as she signed the dissolution papers, and Marcus Chen noticed because he was the only one in the throne room who dared to look at her face. Everyone else, the 12 high senators, the ceremonial guards, the hovering attendants, kept their eyes fixed on the marble floor, as tradition demanded when royalty performed an act of shame. "It is done," Empress Vaelith announced, her voice carrying the precise, emotionless cadence that the Kethari considered proper. "The bonding is nullified. I release House Sorenthal from all obligations." The male who had been her bonded mate for 11 years didn't even glance back as he strode from the chamber, his new intended, younger, fertile, politically advantageous, waiting just beyond the great doors. The senators exchanged looks of barely concealed satisfaction. Another problem solved. Another alliance secured. Marcus stood in his designated corner, wearing the simple gray uniform of a human diplomatic attaché, technically invisible according to Kethari's social protocol. Humans occupied an odd position in the hegemony, too new to matter, too strange to categorize, useful enough to tolerate. He was here as a cultural observer, documenting the Empire's customs for Earth's fledgling xenoanthropology archives. He was not supposed to speak. "Your Imperial Majesty," he said, his voice cutting through the ritual silence like a blade. 12 heads snapped toward him. The guards' hands moved to their ceremonial staffs. Senator Kalros, the eldest and cruelest of the council, hissed through his teeth, the Kethari equivalent of a gasp of horror. "The human forgets its place," Kalros said, not bothering to address Marcus directly. But the Empress raised one long-fingered hand, and everyone froze. "Let him speak." Her eyes, silver gray with vertical pupils, fixed on Marcus with something that might have been curiosity, or might have been the cold consideration of someone deciding whether to order an execution. Marcus stepped forward, knowing he was violating at least 7 diplomatic protocols. "I wanted to say that I'm sorry for your loss." The silence that followed was absolute. The Kethari didn't apologize. They didn't offer condolences. Loss was weakness, and acknowledging another's weakness was an insult. What Marcus had just done was the equivalent of walking up to a grieving widow and spitting on her husband's grave, at least by their standards. Kalros's face purpled. "This creature dares, Senator." The Empress's voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of 3,000 years of unbroken imperial lineage. "I believe I told you to let him speak." She rose from her throne, and Marcus realized for the first time how tall she was. Nearly 7 feet, with the long, graceful limbs and blue-tinged skin characteristic of her species. Her ceremonial robes whispered against the floor as she descended the steps toward him. Every guard tensed. Every senator held their breath. The Empress stopped 3 feet from Marcus, close enough that he could see the fine scales around her temples, the subtle glow beneath her skin that indicated strong emotion in her species. She was angry, he realized. Or possibly devastated. Or both. "You are sorry," she repeated, as if testing the words. "For my loss, yes, Your Majesty. And what loss would that be? I have lost nothing of value. A defective bonding has been corrected. House Sorenthal has been freed to pursue more fruitful arrangements. The hegemony is strengthened." Marcus met her eyes. He knew he shouldn't. Direct eye contact with royalty was forbidden. But he'd spent 3 years studying the Kethari, learning their language, observing their culture, and he'd noticed something that everyone else seemed determined to ignore. The Empress was lonely. Not just alone. Lonely. There was a difference. She attended every function, performed every duty, spoke the correct words in the correct order. But she never laughed. Never touched anyone who wasn't required to touch her. Never received a visitor who wasn't there on official business. "I think," Marcus said carefully, "that you've lost 11 years of your life to someone who never saw you." The glow beneath her skin flared. One of the guards took a step forward, but the Empress's raised hand stopped him. "You presume to know what I have lost." Her voice was ice. "You are human. Your species has been spacefaring for less than 2 centuries. You have no concept of what—" "I know that he never looked at you," Marcus interrupted. And this time even the Empress seemed shocked by his audacity. "I've been at every state function for 3 years. Every dinner, every ceremony, every reception. He never once looked at your face. He spoke to you, yes. He stood beside you. But he never actually saw you." The Empress stared at him. "I am sorry," Marcus repeated, "that you spent 11 years with someone who never bothered to see you. That seems like a terrible kind of loneliness." For a long moment, no one moved. Then Senator Kalros stepped forward, his face contorted with rage. Your Majesty, I must insist that this human be removed from the palace immediately. This violation of protocol cannot, Senator Calros thought. The Empress turned, and something in her expression made the old politician take a step back. You will arrange for the human cultural attaché to be given quarters in the East Wing. He will dine with my household staff and have access to the archives. His observer status is hereby upgraded to diplomatic guest. Calros sputtered. Your Majesty, this is highly irregular. I am aware. The Empress looked at Marcus one more time, and he thought he saw something flicker in those silver eyes. Something fragile and cautiously hopeful. Consider it an imperial whim. She swept from the chamber, leaving chaos in her wake. And Marcus, standing alone among hostile aliens who would have happily seen him executed for his transgression, smiled. 3 weeks later, Marcus found himself in the Empress's private garden, surrounded by bioluminescent flowers that pulsed gently in the artificial twilight. He wasn't supposed to be here. Guest status or not, the imperial gardens were restricted. But he'd followed the sound of water and discovered a hidden courtyard where a small fountain sang to itself in the darkness. And the Empress sat alone on a stone bench, staring at nothing. I wondered how long it would take you to find this place, she said without turning around. You have a talent for appearing where you shouldn't be. Marcus hesitated at the entrance. Should I leave? If I wanted you to leave, I would have had you removed 3 weeks ago. She gestured to the space beside her on the bench. Sit. I wish to understand something. He sat, maintaining the proper distance that Cathari etiquette demanded between non-bonded individuals. The flowers around them shifted from blue to purple, as if responding to their presence. What do you wish to understand, Your Majesty? Why you spoke? She finally looked at him, and in the garden's soft light she seemed less like an empress and more like a woman. In the throne room. You knew the consequences. Senator Calros wanted you executed. 3 other senators wanted you exiled. You had nothing to gain and everything to lose. Why? Marcus considered the question. Because I couldn't watch anymore. Watch what? You. He turned to face her. I couldn't watch everyone pretend they didn't see what was happening to you. The way he treated you. The way they all treated you. Like you were a symbol instead of a person. Like your feelings didn't matter because empresses aren't supposed to have feelings. Vaelith was silent for a long moment. Among my people, she said finally, there is a concept, Velthori. It means roughly, the duty of endurance. We are taught from birth that suffering is private. To display pain is to burden others with it. To seek comfort is to admit weakness. A ruler especially must be Velthori. She must endure all things and show nothing. That sounds exhausting. It is. The admission seemed to surprise her. It is very exhausting. Can I tell you something about humans? You may. We believe that pain shared is pain lessened. Marcus picked one of the glowing flowers and examined it. When someone we care about is hurting, we want to sit with them, hold their hand, let them know they're not alone. We think that's what makes us stronger, not weaker. Vaelith watched him handle the flower. Your species is strange, I know. You touch things constantly. Each other, objects, even plants you've just met. Marcus laughed softly. I suppose we do. It is considered intimate among Cathari. Touch. She looked away. The kind of casual contact humans engage in would be scandalous here. I'm sorry if I've offended anyone. You have offended nearly everyone. But there was something almost like warmth in her voice. The senators think you are an uncivilized barbarian. The guards believe you have no respect for boundaries. My household staff has started taking wagers on when I will have you removed. And what do you think? She was quiet for so long that Marcus thought she wouldn't answer. I think, she said softly, that you are the first person in many years who has spoken to me, as though I were real. Marcus set down the flower. You are real, am I? She turned to him, and he saw the glow beneath her skin flickering with suppressed emotion. Sometimes I wonder. I perform the role of Empress. I speak the words, make the gestures, follow the rituals. But beneath the performance, what is left? What is Vaelith, apart from her function? What do you want to be? The question seemed to startle her. What I want is irrelevant. Why? Because she stopped, frowned. Because it simply is. An empress does not want. She serves. She endures. That's Velthori talking. I'm asking you. Marcus leaned forward slightly. Not the empress. You. Vaelith. If you could be anything, do anything, what would you want? She stared at him as though he'd asked her to explain the meaning of gravity to a fish. I don't know, she whispered. No one has ever asked me that before. Then maybe it's time to figure it out. The flowers pulsed around them, shifting from purple to deep rose. Somewhere in the distance, the palace bells chimed the evening hour. "You should go," Vaelith said, but she didn't move. "If you're found here with me, it will cause a scandal. Do you want me to go?" Another long pause. "No," she said finally. "I don't." So Marcus stayed, and they sat together in the garden while the flowers sang their silent songs. And for the first time in 11 years, the Empress felt something other than empty. The assassination attempt came 6 weeks later. Marcus was walking back to his quarters when he heard the commotion. Running footsteps, shouted commands, the high whine of energy weapons charging. He broke into a run, following the sounds through the palace corridors until he reached the Imperial Assembly Chamber. The great doors had been blown inward. Inside, chaos reigned. Vaelith stood at the center of the room, surrounded by a shimmering force field that flickered dangerously with each impact from the attacker's weapons. 6 figures in black armor moved toward her, their movements coordinated and professional. The palace guards were down, dead or unconscious. Marcus couldn't tell. Senator Kalros stood near the wall, his face carefully blank, making no move to help. Marcus didn't think. He grabbed a fallen guard's staff and charged. The first attacker never saw him coming. Marcus brought the staff down hard on the back of the assassin's neck, dropping him instantly. The second turned, raising her weapon, but Marcus was already inside her guard, using the staff to deflect a shot into the ceiling before driving his elbow into her throat. "Human!" one of the attackers shouted, and suddenly they were all focused on him. Which was, he realized distantly, probably going to get him killed. But it also gave Vaelith time to act. The force field around her collapsed inward, then exploded outward in a wave of brilliant light. The remaining assassins flew backward, crashing against the walls with bone-breaking force. The Empress stood at the center of the devastation, her skin blazing with inner fire, her eyes incandescent. She was beautiful, Marcus thought, and terrifying. And hurt. He saw the blood before she did, a spreading stain across her abdomen where one of the energy blasts had penetrated her shield before it fully formed. Vaelith. She collapsed. Marcus caught her before she hit the ground, pulling her into his arms without thinking about protocol or propriety, or the fact that he was currently cradling the most powerful person in the known galaxy like she was something precious. "Hold on," he said, pressing his hand against the wound. "Just hold on. Help is coming, Marcus." Her voice was thin. "Reedy, stay. You shouldn't touch me. The scandal. To hell with the scandal." She laughed. Actually laughed, a weak, surprised sound. Such language. Before an empress. "You can have me executed later. Right now, you're going to stay awake and keep looking at me. Understand?" Her silver eyes focused on his face. The glow beneath her skin was fading, the light dying with her blood. "They were right to dissolve the bonding. I cannot produce heirs. My genetic line ends with me. The senators have known for years. That is why they arranged this. Why Kalros? I don't care about your genetics." Marcus's voice broke. "I don't care about heirs or lineages or what the senators want. I care about you. Do you understand? You, not the Empress. Not the symbol. You." Her hand found his, her long fingers curling weakly around his own. "The first time someone has held me in 11 years, she murmured. "And it is a human. The galaxy has a strange sense of humor. Vaelith, stay awake." "You looked at me," she said, her eyes fluttering closed. "From the very first day. You saw me. I see you. I still see you. Please." The palace physicians burst through the destroyed doors, but Marcus didn't move. He held onto her hand, refusing to let go, refusing to let her slip away into the darkness alone. Because that's what humans did. They stayed. Vaelith woke 3 days later to find Marcus asleep in a chair beside her bed. He looked terrible, unshaven, exhausted, still wearing the clothes he'd had on during the attack, now stained with her blood. One of the palace healers had attempted to remove him several times, she learned later. He had refused to leave. "Barbarian," she murmured, but she was smiling. His eyes opened instantly, as if he'd been waiting for any sign of life. "You're awake, obviously." She tried to sit up, winced, and allowed him to help her. His hands gentle on her shoulders, supporting without confining. "What happened?" "Senator Kalros is under arrest, along with 3 other senators. The investigation traced the assassins back to a faction that wanted to install a more cooperative empress, one who could be controlled." Marcus's jaw tightened. "They won't be controlling anyone ever again. And my injury. The healers say you'll make a full recovery. Your species has remarkable regenerative capabilities." He paused. "They also said that if the treatment had been delayed another few minutes, you would have died." Vaelith absorbed this information. She should feel frightened, she thought. Or angry. Or grateful for her survival. Instead, she felt strangely peaceful. You stayed with me, she said. The entire time. Yes, that was highly improper, I know. The palace staff are scandalized. Good for them. She studied his face, the exhaustion, the worry, the fierce protectiveness he made no effort to hide. Why? I told you. He took her hand, holding it carefully between both of his own. I see you, and I couldn't leave you alone. Vaelith felt something crack inside her. Something that had been frozen for so long she'd forgotten it existed. Her eyes burned with moisture she didn't know how to express. Among my people, she said quietly, when someone risks their life for another without obligation or expectation of reward, it creates a bond. A debt that cannot be repaid through ordinary means. I don't want you to owe me anything. I know. She tightened her fingers around his. That is why the debt exists. Because you never asked for it. Marcus was quiet for a moment. When I first came here, I thought I was studying your culture. Learning your customs. But somewhere along the way, I started learning you instead. Your strength. Your loneliness. Your courage. The way you carry the weight of an empire without anyone to share the burden. Marcus, I'm not asking for anything, he continued. I know I'm human. I know I'm nothing by Cathari standards. No status, no lineage, no political value. I know that whatever I feel for you is probably inappropriate and definitely impossible, and you're perfect, Vaelith said. He stopped, stared at her. What? You're perfect, she repeated. That is what you expect me to say, isn't it? That despite your flaws, I find you perfect. That love transcends all boundaries. That together we can overcome any obstacle. Marcus's face shifted. Vaelith, I wasn't, but I am not going to say that. She pulled her hand from his, watching his expression fall. I am not going to say that because it would be a lie. And because it would be the wrong thing to say. She forced herself to sit up fully, ignoring the pain in her side. She met his eyes directly, the way he had met hers in the throne room all those weeks ago. You are not perfect, she said. You are reckless and improper, and you have no understanding of appropriate boundaries. You speak when you should be silent. You stay when you should leave. You touched an empress without permission, and held her while she bled and refused to let go, even when guards tried to remove you. I know, Marcus said quietly. I know I shouldn't have. I am defective. Broken. Incapable of providing the one thing an empress is supposed to provide. I have been abandoned by my bonded, targeted by my own council, and spent 11 years believing that my value lay solely in a function I could never perform. She reached out and took his face between her hands. A touch, so intimate, so forbidden by her culture's standards, that it made his breath catch. We are both flawed, she said. Both damaged. Both carrying scars that may never fully heal. That is the truth. And the truth is better than perfection, Marcus. Because perfection is a lie we tell ourselves to avoid the harder work of acceptance. What are you saying? I am saying that I don't want you to be perfect. I want you to be you, the human who spoke when he should have been silent, who saw me when everyone else looked away, who held my hand when I was dying and refused to let go. Her thumbs traced his cheekbones, her skin cool against his. Warmth. I am saying that if you will have me, flaws and all, I would like to discover what comes next, together. Marcus's eyes glistened. The senators will never accept it. The senators just tried to have me killed. Their acceptance is no longer my primary concern. Your people will think you've gone mad. Let them. The galaxy will talk. Vaelith smiled. A real smile, not the diplomatic expression she wore at state functions. The galaxy can do whatever it pleases. I am done performing for an audience that never truly saw me. She leaned forward, pressing her forehead against his, in a gesture that was, among her people, more intimate than a kiss. I see you, Marcus Chen. Do you see me? Always. He whispered. From the very first day. When she finally kissed him, soft, uncertain, utterly unpracticed, it was nothing like the romantic stories described. It was awkward and sweet, and slightly terrified. Neither of them knew what they were doing. But that was all right. They would figure it out together. 1 year later, the Galactic Historical Archives would record the ascension of Empress Vaelith's human consort, the first interspecies imperial bonding in Cathari history. The record would note the political implications, the diplomatic ramifications, the precedent it set for human-alien relations throughout the known galaxy. What the archives wouldn't record was the private moment the night before the ceremony, when the Empress found her human alone in the garden where they'd first truly spoken, staring at the bioluminescent flowers. Having second thoughts, she asked. Never. He turned to her, and she saw in his eyes the same fierce devotion she'd witnessed in the throne room all those months ago. I was just thinking about what you said. About not being perfect. And I think I finally understand. He took her hand, casually, naturally, the way humans touched each other without thinking. It's not about being perfect. It's about being present. Being seen. Being willing to show up, flaws and all, and trust that someone will meet you there. Vaelith stepped closer, close enough to feel the warmth radiating from his skin. And have you found someone who meets you there? Yeah. He smiled. That warm, open, impossibly human smile. I have. She kissed him under the singing flowers, and the galaxy for once had nothing to say about it.